Businesses were hit.
A string of early morning burglaries in Northeast Portland.
City in decline.
Robbed and carjacked at gunpoint. This is not the city we once knew. Crime is skyrocketing, and the homeless crisis has reached a breaking point.
Sprawled on the side.
How and why is this happening?
I was out of town to find myself a way to get myself out of this world. You were not about, and I blame myself. I should have blamed myself, or that's what I heard. And now I'm feeling.
Howdy, everybody. I am RJ Smith, and this is Thursday. Welcome aboard. Today, I want to talk about the recent decision by a federal judge ruling that immigrants who are not citizens, and especially illegal immigrants who cross the border illegally against our federal laws, that this population has every right under the Second Amendment to own guns.
A judge in Illinois just ruled illegal immigrants have the right to keep and bear arms. So rather than the circle with the line through it, we need like a thumbs up emoji there. The case is pretty simple. Police arrested an illegal immigrant living in Chicago with a gun back in 2020. They charged him for violating the federal law banning illegal immigrants from having guns. It's been on the books for a long time. Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman just decided the Second Amendment applies to him, the illegal immigrant, like everybody else, so he can have a gun.
A federal judge decides, even though they are prohibited, right, by federal law to own guns, this federal judge decided, it'd be a good idea just to give them that right as well. So imagine this for a minute. I'm not saying all immigrants who come across our southern border are bad, but a lot of them are. A lot of these countries do not have laws and structure, and it's pretty much the Old West in South America. So what makes you think that when they come to America and you give them guns, no problem? Really?
In her decision, she wrote that Humberto Flores received and used the handgun solely for self-protection and protection of property during a time of documented civil unrest in the spring of 2020, the summer of love. Court documents show Flores fired the gun at moving cars during the BLM riots in Chicago. He argues police officers warned him about looters who were approaching his neighborhood. Key to this ruling is that the judge says Flores' conduct heavily impacted her decision. He had no criminal record and was not considered a risk to public safety.
Because he acted right and you don't know that he has a criminal record? Let's not even talk about how do you know he doesn't have a criminal record? How do you know he's not somebody who was let out of prison? How do you know he wasn't in any of these huge gangs in South America? How do you know that? You don't. But let's give them guns because, they're all, peace-loving people. Yeah. I have nothing against immigrants, but do it legally. You have federal laws that prevent you from illegally invading our southern border. So do it legally. Everyone else in the world has to follow our rules about immigration except people who live below the southern border? What the hell is this? Talk about it ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. Whew.
I think it's very fascinating that this whole push towards expanding the deference to the Second Amendment, in some ways has kind of come full circle here, where something that really seems counterintuitive, the idea that someone who's not here legally still has that right, and you can't use this particular statute, which is commonly known as the felon in possession statute.
I got a felony a couple decades ago, some felonies, right? Had a rough life growing up, but the last 20 years I've been professional. I've written books, I've written Hollywood screenplays. I'm a good citizen. But I can't own a gun because of something that happened more than 20 years ago. But these people coming in can have guns without you knowing anything about them. If that's the case, you might as well let felons have guns then. What about that? Of course you wouldn't do that, because most felons are insane. So how do you know when this man walks into a gun store or this woman and they want a gun and they give their information? Of course, you're going to have no hit coming back. And guess what? They're going to walk out of there with a freaking gun. How is this possible? Federal law prohibits this. But we have these advocate judges that just think they can change laws.
The way it's written, she really zeroed in on the language. He's not a felon. And the gray area, of course, is whether or not his status, and frankly, I think the way he was using the gun calls a little bit into question, you know, how peaceful he is.
No, I mean, I guess the question, though, is what constitutional rights and protections then become absolute, right? Because illegal immigrants are still counted in a census.
A lot of talk on the news recently that there's some kind of movement underway to allow this invasion so that immigrants can vote, even though they're not citizens. They're counted in the census. Now, the census is used to make congressional maps. So what do you think is going to happen to those 9 million people who came in through the southern border? More representatives from whatever political leaning they have are going to be allotted just by the nature of the census. It's crazy. Illegal immigrants should not be able to vote. They should not be able to get a license. They should certainly not be able to own a gun. They shouldn't be able to get federal benefits like Medicaid and Social Security. And you're paying for hotel rooms that cost $800 a night for how many? In New York, 170,000. What the is going on in my country, in our country that we all grew up in? Oh boy. You know, I don't get it. I just don't understand.
But then where do we get to right to work or right to vote or right to have a license to practice medicine or right to have a license to do all of these other things? Isn't this opening Pandora's box?
It could be. I do think, I hate to say this, but I think Congress would have to be a little bit more powerful.
Federal law prohibits immigrants from owning guns, especially illegal immigrants. Think about this. If I was to decide, oh, America's done, I got to get out of here. It's too much violence, too much bullshit. Let's say I decided I wanted to go to England, one of our allies. I wouldn't be allowed to own a frickin' gun. Every country in the world has an immigration law, and they enforce it, unlike us. You got people from all over the world coming in here. Asian people, African people, terrorists from like the Middle East. Then you have the Mexicans, Hondurans, and everyone else, El Salvador, coming in. 9 million people in the last 3 years under our current president. You want to give these 9 million people guns? Oh, that's a great idea. It's making me really think about my vote in November, honestly. This is just insane, the things we're seeing.
The problem here is you need to draw the statute more narrowly, and you might have to actually specify that being here in a non-legal status would also make you not eligible to carry the firearm.
Interesting. You have to think about what you said of Congress actually doing its job, which they rarely seem to be able to do. Key part of the ruling, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the court's majority opinion, we hold that when the Second Amendment's plain text covers an individual's conduct, the Constitution presumptively protects that conduct.
There's nothing in there about illegal aliens or people who come across our border illegally. Nothing in there about them being able to own guns. You can't have the Second Amendment apply to someone who's not even from this country. The Second Amendment offers Americans, people that live here, that were born here, these inalienable rights. The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, all of those things apply to us, not people who invade our country. What do you guys think about this? I mean, I'd be very interested to read your comments, honestly. I'm lost here. I'm a little angry. I'm sorry if that's coming across, but it just seems to me that things are really getting out of control in our country.
It feels like a little bit, you know, chickens coming home to roost. So,
in what sense?
In the sense of it's been associated, not entirely accurately, but it's very much been associated with the conservative court, a conservative movement to really expand the protections of the Second Amendment for gun owners.
Flores was here illegally, therefore he broke a U.S. law by coming and by staying.
Great point. He did do those things. He did fire a gun during, you know, the riots of BLM. He did God knows what with that gun. He was arrested, okay? And now some federal judge has decided that nope, illegal arrest, he can own a gun. Nobody has to learn our language. Nobody has to bring licenses, proof that, you know, you aren't a felon, proof that you are allowed to come into this country, some type of law that protects American people, protects us who were born and raised in this country, and those who came in legally on immigration are also included. But the word illegal, why are we having a problem understanding what illegal immigration means? It means they broke federal law, just like Leon said, and came into our country knowing it was illegal, and now they are buying guns? Get ready, folks. OK Corral. Shootout. Noon. May the best man win.
It's this presumption, the Constitution creates that presumption that whether you're legally here or not, you have that right as a person here. But if the specific law says you're not allowed to possess it because of your status or a crime you've committed, then that would fix the presumption.
All right. Andrew Roberts, I thought, rightly pointed out, he's one of our star producers, that you've got a lot of these cases in different courts. So it probably ends up at the Supreme Court at one point.
People that are here illegally, how many of them have been caught with guns? And since, like Leon said, it's happening in all different cities across the country, isn't it obvious to us now? Why would an immigrant want to come here and arm themselves? This is not Honduras. It's not, the wild, wild west. This is a country of laws. The average citizen doesn't want a gun. But people who are concerned about safety in their own lives that are citizens have every right. Since when does our Constitution apply to people from other countries? It doesn't. And no matter what an activist judge says, she can't make that so.
Or another. But oftentimes these district judge rulings and everything else play into other cases. And if you, as the left is sort of chuckling and saying, hey, this serves Second Amendment activists right, they're also saying, look, that these kinds of rulings then play into driver's licenses, and whether the driver's license of a California resident who's an illegal alien is valid in Texas. How does that play out now?
Guys, I honestly love News Nation because they're not biased, right? They just report the news straight up. They don't lean Democrat, they don't lean Republican, they report the news. That's how it was when I was growing up. So good on them for bringing this to our attention, but holy crap, if we give guns to people coming across our southern border who we don't know anything about, you're asking for Pandora's box to explode open. You've seen all the crimes so far. Imagine now, why don't you just give them a gun? As soon as they come over the border, give them a gun. Why not? All right, I can't take anymore. My dander is up. I feel like I'm having a heart attack here. I'm so upset. I usually don't get upset, but yeah, this is bothersome. Why do we want to take away guns from citizens who committed a felony decades ago and who now have a great life and are doing the right thing, but you don't mind giving a gun to someone else who comes into the country who you know nothing about? Makes perfect sense. If you are going to give non-citizen immigrants guns, I suggest you give guns to felons who have changed their life over. This way, at least, we can protect our own property from these people. And this goes for anyone. I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, purple, green, yellow. It doesn't matter to me. The law is what matters, right? The law is very clear. Illegal immigrants under federal law cannot own guns. So it's going to the Supreme Court, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Kind of crazy story today. Got upset, but this was certainly crazy news. If they're given guns, we're in trouble. Have a good day. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and follow. I need you to hit that subscribe button. At least hit the like button. And I will see you back here Friday morning.